The Joy Perspective, the podcast where I share life's challenges, things I've learned through years of personal development, and help others shift their perspective and find their joy. I'm Lauren Valdez, and together we'll dive into how changing the way we think can unlock possibilities, spark creativity, and transform the everyday. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's episode of The Joy Perspective. I'm so glad you're here. And today we are going to look at the quiet, unseen driving force behind the decisions and actions that we take. And we're going to be looking into the question, who are you living for? Who are you living for? Who are you finding your validation in? And is that what truly matters? These questions might feel uncomfortable or make you uneasy. And that's okay, because growth comes when we get uncomfortable, when we uncover the truth behind why we're doing what we're doing and whose approval we're seeking in trying to do those actions. I remember a time, and I've talked about it before, when my whole life was like a performance. I was trying so hard to be everything for everyone. I was trying to be the perfect daughter, the high achiever, get straight A's, varsity sports, and the one who carried the weight of the world and did it all with a smile. I remember I used to be able to hide so much behind my smile and joyful personality. And deep down, maybe I was hurting inside and crying for attention and love and seeking approval, but people around me couldn't see that because I got so good at hiding how I was feeling and throwing it into persevering and achievement. And so when you are living for someone else's approval, like I was, you lose yourself. You really do. I remember being in therapy when I was 20 years old, and the therapist asked me, "What is it that makes you happy?" And I think I broke down crying because I couldn't think of what truly made me happy versus what I was doing with my life to make others around me happy or proud, just so that I could feel worthy. So I want to pause, and I want you to ask yourself this question. Who am I living for? Is it your parents? Is it a boss? Is it a partner? Could it be your kids? Maybe even a version of yourself that you created when you were a kid or years ago that no longer fits who you are today. But yet you're still trying to force yourself into that. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in earning love that we forget that we're already worthy. I know for me, I didn't feel it. It wasn't until therapy and coaching that I realized I'm already worthy of love. So let's take a second to talk about validation and who you're trying to prove yourself to. Who is it that you're trying to prove yourself to? What are you hoping that you'll feel when you can finally say you did it? Or when that person says, "I'm proud of you." And if they never say it, if you never reach that point, does that mean you're not enough? Because that's what living for somebody feels like. If they never say they're proud, if they never say you did it, or they never say whatever, then you feel like you're not enough because you didn't achieve what you were working toward. And I know I've had an episode out there about making yourself proud, but I think that it's so much deeper than that. This is where the real work begins within you. When you stop chasing other people's validation, other people's words, and we start rooting our worth in something deeper, rooting ourselves in who we are. So I want to ask you another question that is what you're chasing actually aligned with what truly matters to you? This question here is a hard one. So let me say that again. Is what you're chasing actually aligned with what truly matters to you? When we're chasing something that isn't aligned with who we truly are or what we truly find our purpose in or we truly think what matters, that's when we feel unaligned. It's actually why this podcast was born, because I felt like I wasn't using the gifts that God has given me in the way that I should be using them. And so I felt like it was on my heart and God was telling me to go and share the things that I've learned through all the coaching and therapy and personal development and all of the things that I've done. God was calling me to share that. And in not sharing it, I felt so unaligned. And now in sharing it, I get so passionate and excited. And I know you guys see it in some of my episodes because I get those comments from you guys or those messages where it's like, that was fire. And it's because I'm actually finding my worth in the things that align with me rather than in someone else's validation. If you're not aligned, if what you're living for is not aligned, then it feels exhausting. It feels almost like you're off track. And if you're feeling that way, then it might be time to make a change or even small baby steps to realign yourself. I'm not saying go out and quit your job, right? And that's not at all what I'm saying. But let's talk about some little shifts or some little steps that you can take to start realigning and to start really putting what matters or what matters first. So if something drains you or if what you're doing is draining you, it could be taking 5 minutes to breathe and listen to your own heart instead of the noise around you. It could be, I caught myself, I'm not going to lie, there tonight where there was so much noise, so much going on that I was like, let me take a deep breath. Let me really slow down enough to focus on the thing that matters and ask myself some questions. Here's one. What would I choose today or right now, this evening, if I weren't afraid of disappointing somebody else or letting somebody else down or not getting their approval on something? I felt so much pressure when I wanted to come in and record this episode to go and sit on the couch with my kiddos and watch a show with them. And I had to take that deep breath and ask myself, what would I do if I wasn't afraid of disappointing them to watch a 12-minute episode of Bluey? I would go in that office and I would record that podcast that I want to record. And here I am. And I can hear them in the living room. They're enjoying their episode of Bluey. It's not earth-shattering or groundbreaking that I'm in here recording this, but I'm doing this for me. And then I'll go out there and I'll watch a second episode and they'll be just as happy. But ask yourself, what would you choose today or right now or this evening or this morning if you weren't afraid of disappointing someone else? That's one small shift. That's one small perspective shift that allows you to think about what you really want. And you're allowed to live a life that feels like yours. You're allowed to choose joy over performance. You're allowed to choose perseverance. You are. Not for somebody else, but for you. You're allowed to choose rest over performance. You're allowed to choose presence over perfection. And you're also allowed to choose performance over sitting on the couch with your kids, because that is what I wanted. That is what's aligning with me. Alignment over approval is hard. It's hard sometimes just to slow down enough to realize what is it that aligns with you versus what other people may need or want from you. And I am not saying to disregard the needs of your kids. If my kids were knocking on my door and I was like, Mommy, I'm starving. Can you please make me some food? That would be different. That is a need that I need to meet as their parent. But me sitting on the couch next to them for an episode is not a need. I'm allowed to choose me in this instance. They're okay. They're taken care of. If no one has told you lately, let me say it now. You don't have to earn your worth. You already have it. Whether or not you believe it, it's true. You are worthy. You're allowed to choose your happiness. You're allowed to choose joy. And you don't have to seek the approval of others. You don't have to seek feeling worthy from somebody else. The next time that you find yourself striving or performing or bending to fit someone else's mold, come back to the question of who are you doing it for? And what would you choose today, right now, if you weren't afraid of disappointing someone? Odds are they're probably not even going to be that disappointed. Just like my kiddos, they were like, all right, cool. I'm going to go watch this anyways. Yet, if you're like me, we put so much pressure on ourselves and we're afraid to let people down. And we don't have to be. Who are you living for? Let that question guide you. Who are you doing it for? And what would you choose right now if you weren't afraid of disappointing someone? Choose your joy. Find your joy. Thank you for being here with me. And I hope as you ask yourself these questions, you can start to make tiny shifts in asking yourself this easy question of what would you choose if you weren't afraid of disappointing someone? I hope you choose yourself. I hope you start living for yourself. Align yourself with God's purpose for your life. And do it. And do it with joy. Thank you for joining me today on The Joy Perspective. I hope this episode helped you shift your mindset and find a little bit more joy in your life. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss one. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at @MeetLaurenValdez for more inspiration and updates. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. Until next time, keep shifting your perspective and finding your joy.